What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Old school with you, legendary bloodlines. Today, we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane and going back to what it was like to play EverQuest 1 on launch. Now, I was asked what it was like to play around launch a few times, and considering that it was an exciting time to be alive, I figured I'd make a video on the topic, but in order for me to take you back to what it was like to play EQ in 99 when it first launched, I gotta kind of take you back to 1999 and what it was just like to be alive. The 90s had it all. We had food that didn't need 50 labels, masks in public were literally for robberies, music was awesome, movies were actually good, and it was debatably the best era sports has ever seen. Before moving on, we still need to go over what the technology was like back in the 90s. And it wasn't, you know, all devices and notifications. We were still in the infancy of the internet. Devices weren't really a thing yet. BlackBerry was only invented in 1999, the same year that EverQuest came out. iPod come out in 2001, so you didn't even have an MP3 player yet. And as far as video gaming goes, I'm not sure if you're exactly aware of the timeline of video game consoles into PC gaming, but it's basically broken down simply like this. Nintendo launched in the United States in September of 1986. PlayStation 1 came out in December of 1994. The original Xbox, that came out in November of 2001. So PlayStation came out, the original one, 5 years before EQ did. But Xbox didn't even launch its first console until 2 years after EverQuest launched. And just another idea of how the technology was back then. EverQuest was the reason you wanted to go online. AOL was, that was the thing. If you wanted to go online, we used to actually have a CD. And you'd put the CD into your computer, and that would allow you to connect to the internet. And it was dial-up. You would hear beep boop, beep beep, beep boop, and then it would, connect to the internet. And your speed, your connection was just absolutely terrible. But for some reason, EverQuest, the game, still worked very well on that old school internet connection. So, that piece of technology, which was EverQuest 1, not only was it the first 3D game to ever come out, it was also the first, online game, the first game where you could play with other players in a virtual world. And it was the first of a million things. I mean, the first game where you had like visual spells like that, where you had like dungeons, questing. The list just goes on and on. There were games that touched on these elements, but it was never done in a 3D world, you know, at that level, and especially not perfected the way that EverQuest did before they had launched the game.
Word amongst the most intelligent races of NORAD that first came the dragons. The great crystalline dragon, ruler over the plane of sky, deposited life onto a lifeless planet, and with one swipe of her mighty claws, laid claim to the promise of a new world. NORAD quickly developed from infancy as brave explorers journeyed forth in search of fertile lands on which to build. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. Cities became kingdoms. Guilds and alliances formed, bound together through common goals and the sharing of ideas. The desires to grow beyond the common abilities of mere mortals introduced powerful skills, trades, and crafts. Wizards, sorcerers, and enchanters mastered powerful magic and mystical arts. But alas, ignorance and innocence go hand in hand. It is the adventure of quest that awaits the bold and daring. It is the land of EverQuest.
And with that trailer, the virtual world online was born. And one of the main reasons why this trailer was so effective back then was because it portrayed a sense of adventure. It gave you a sense of exploring the unknown, this brand new digital world that everybody could go and explore together and find out the secrets. It's just exciting when something new, especially technology related, is delivered to the public. And I mean, we're talking about something that has basically turned gaming into what it is today. So, yeah, this was an extremely pivotal point in the history of video gaming. And this trailer, although of course it doesn't look that great, it looked better back in 1999. It didn't age well at all. It's very pixelated, and that's the best copy that I could find. But you do get an idea of what they were portraying to us. And it was brand new. There hadn't been another virtual world before this. And going forward for the launch, this is what we were excited about: playing a new game that was built off of new technology that we could finally play together online in a huge, massive, brand new digital world. And if that didn't get you excited, I don't know what did. It got me so excited back then that I went out and got one of the first computers that you could really get that would play games like that. It's funny because I still actually have the PC today. It was that good of a PC. I don't use it anymore, but so, that gives you a good idea of what the marketing was like and how they were basically trying to message us to get us excited. And then we have the launch, and this led up to that. So you can't get to the launch without the trailer and without some marketing before that. Obviously, we had some really good marketing. We had Brad McQuaid and the entire team. They did quite a few little videos explaining about the title and whatnot. I had a hard time trying to find any of that old footage with Brad McQuaid, or I would have put it up there for you. But yeah, so that's that period of we just got the trailer and we don't have the game yet. So that's what it was like to have a game marketed to us when we didn't have anything prior to that to even compare it to. And now it's launch. I'm excited to play. I'm in college, actually, at this point, at the University of Massachusetts. And yeah, it's March 16th, 1999, and an unforgettable day to most gamers that were lucky enough to play on that day. It wasn't that big when it launched. It did get, exponentially larger over a short period of time. But I was on the Malin Starpire server, and I played a mage, and his name was Magic Hole with an COL, which, yeah, I know it's terrible, but I was young and that's just the name I went with. I wanted to play a caster, and I thought the idea of being able to summon pets sounded kind of cool. And I was able to do a lot of content and explore, which a lot of other classes couldn't really do. The game was extremely difficult right off the bat. We didn't really have any form of fast travel. There wasn't anything like that. When you died, you had to run back to your corpse, just like kind of EQ today. There was corpse running. And because of the no fast travel or anything like that, you could literally spend 45 minutes running back to your corpse. You could summon your corpse too, and there's things you could do, but you could get in predicaments where you would literally just be forced to go get your corpse. And other things that were pretty interesting mechanics back then. So when you right-clicked on a mob, it would con the mob, and it would tell you basically your reputation with that certain NPC type. So, if you're a troll and you're conning a human, the human's going to con KOS to you, kill on sight. And that's the way the game works. So you'd have to be very careful about where you went around and what you interacted with. Now, you could also build reputation, just kind of like a World of Warcraft. EverQuest 1 was the first one that invented that. And you could build reputation by killing mobs, and when you killed mobs, it would literally give you rep for a certain, faction, which would be like, a race. And then you could go around that race. Language in original EverQuest, you literally couldn't understand what other players were saying unless you were the same race as them, or you could speak that language. The way that you learned the languages of other races in original EverQuest was simply by hearing them being spoken, like in general chat or just around. So you could kind of like get a group of people together that all spoke different languages and just sit there and build it all up over a short amount of time. When I say short amount of time, it's more like a couple of days worth of just so. The game was extremely slow paced. Every single thing that you had to build skill points for. So when you cast a spell, you would have whatever type of archetype the spell fell under, like conjuration or subjugation. So every time you would cast one spell from that type of archetype group from the spell, you'd get a point. And if you didn't have a high skill level, you basically it would say fizzle, and you wouldn't even be able to cast the spell. So the mechanics were pretty intense, and a lot of games we play today, are based off of those original mechanics. And it was just like wild. I mean, we didn't have anything before it. We were all kind of feeling it out and trying to figure out what was going on. I mean, every little part of it was an adventure. When it came to like how you make money, and there was, just so you know, the way that worked, there was a big zone called the Bazaar, and it was off of the Portal of Knowledge, which was like kind of a hub where there were the only fast travel spots, but it just basically had stones you could click on that would take you to a zone all in one spot. And if you played modern EverQuest, you know what I'm talking about. And off of the Portal of Knowledge is a small zone, and you would literally have to stand in there with your character. Or, I mean, you could leave your character there and leave, but if you wanted to sell stuff, you couldn't play and sell stuff, is my point. You would have to have your character sit there as his own little store or her little store, whatever word you want to use. And so, yeah, you would stand there and your toon would become the shop, and anything that you had in your inventory, you could list to sell. And it would be wild because there'd be like so many people around you could barely see, and everyone's a shop and there's people coming in and buying, and you'd want to check all the different shops because that's how you could check who's got what and for what price. So you'd literally want to, if you were buying, go to all the different people. And it was just amazing. It was like super exciting just to even the way that the economy worked. You felt like important selling stuff, and it felt, you know, rewarding buying stuff because just getting money in the game originally and items was extremely hard, like I said. So yeah, that's kind of like what it was like to play EverQuest around launch, including the background with the 90s, and I tried to give you guys a little bit more information than maybe you wanted. If you liked the video, which I hope you did, please tune in again. And I hope you like the new editing, because I tried to put in a couple of extra, you know, flares at the end there. So have a good day, everybody, like usual, and take care. Till I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.